I was married, but I was never the woman my husband chose. He loved his female best friend more than he ever loved me. I stayed silent until the night he chose her over me, and it cost me everything. Before I continue, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you are watching from. I want to know how far this story reaches. Now, sit back, relax, and listen carefully. Anyone watching from a distance would have believed the wedding was perfect. The music was loud, the guests were smiling, cameras flashing everywhere. But they would have been wrong. Very wrong. The bride stood alone, hands folded in front of her, watching her husband dance with another woman dressed in white. A woman who was not his wife. He held her close, laughing softly, moving as though they were the ones who had just exchanged vows. That woman was his female best friend. To understand how a bride could stand alone at her own wedding while another woman took her place beside her husband, we need to go back. Clara had always been known as the quiet one. People often joked that even if someone insulted her, it wouldn't ruin her day. She was gentle, soft-spoken, and deeply non-confrontational. If she ordered jollof rice at a restaurant and was served pounded yam instead, she would stare at the plate for a moment, then shrug and tell herself she hadn't eaten it in a while anyway. At work, when colleagues dumped extra responsibilities on her or blamed her for mistakes that were not hers, Clara simply smiled and accepted. She stayed late, worked harder, and said nothing, because speaking up meant conflict, and conflict terrified her. That fear was something she had learned early in life. Her mother had raised her to believe that a good woman must be patient, quiet, and accommodating, especially in marriage. Marriage, in her mother's eyes, was a woman's greatest achievement. So when David proposed, her mother was overjoyed. She told Clara, "Do everything you can to keep him." And Clara took that advice seriously. What she didn't realize was that she wasn't entering a marriage with just David. She was entering a relationship that already had a third presence, Linda. David was in his early 30s, successful, confident, and emotionally careless. Linda had met David around the same time Clara did. Most people expected David to choose Linda. She matched his personality perfectly. So when he chose Clara instead, many were surprised. Some even joked that Clara was the legal wife, while Linda was the real one. Linda was always around. If Clara and David went out to dinner, Linda would somehow appear at the same restaurant and join them. On quiet weekends at home, Linda would suddenly stop by claiming she was bored. When David returned from business trips, Linda was often there to pick him up, saying she missed her friend. And David always allowed it. One Valentine's Day, David bought Linda diamond jewelry, a brand new iPhone, and flowers with a note that read, "To the only woman who truly understands me." For Clara, he bought a blender. When Clara questioned it, he laughed. He said she wasn't materialistic anyway. Besides, she had once mentioned they needed a blender. Clara said nothing. Linda's jokes were another thing. She often made comments that crossed clear boundaries, laughing as though they were harmless. "Marriage has really tamed you," she would tease David. "If it were me living here, this house wouldn't be this quiet." Clara's stomach would twist every time. She would look at David, waiting for him to stop it. He never did. He just laughed and told Clara not to take things so seriously. And Clara stayed silent. Until their anniversary. David was barely home in the days leading up to it. Still, Clara decided to make the evening special. She cooked his favorite meals, lit candles, and set the table carefully. She told herself this night would bring them closer again. When the door opened, her hope collapsed instantly. David walked in with Linda. He explained quickly, said they had run into each other, said it would be rude to leave her behind. Linda smiled like she belonged there. Clara wanted to say no. She said yes. During the dinner, David and Linda laughed, shared memories, and spoke in a language Clara didn't understand. Linda criticized the food. David agreed with her. Something inside Clara finally snapped. When she spoke up, David exploded, accused her of jealousy, of overreacting. Then he packed a bag. "Linda, let's go," he said, and they left together. 3 days later, Clara collapsed. At the hospital, she learned she was pregnant. David never answered her calls. Linda blocked her number. Later, Linda invited her to meet David at a quiet lake. It was a lie. That night, the canoe overturned. David arrived. He saved Linda first. Clara lost the baby. In the hospital, Clara finally spoke the truth she had buried for years. She said this marriage was never love, it was control. She asked for a divorce. And this time, she did not stay silent. Years later, Clara found her voice, her strength, and her freedom. When she saw David again, she felt nothing. And that was his greatest punishment. Thank you for watching. What lesson did this story teach you? Let me know in the comments. This is Rebecca's African Moral Tales, where silence is broken and truth is spoken.